Hello, and welcome to Lawless Conversations with Katie. I'm Katie, your host. This podcast goes through various difficult subjects such as abortion, gun control, prison systems, or gender, to name a few, and dives into all different aspects of the arguments that might be offered or discussed. At the moment, we are wading our way through the subject of abortion, and today we are going to look at the concept of trying to ban abortion. Although I have spent a lot of time and effort into researching these topics, I am by no means an expert on this subject or any other subject I will explore in the future. So take my thoughts with a grain of salt, and of course, if you have any questions or things to add, please share them. I try my best to keep my own biases out of these explorations, and because I'm talking about many aspects of a subject, including opposing ideas and arguments, know that these are not necessarily ideas that I subscribe to or hold personally. I will, however, explore different arguments as if I do believe in them in order to truly explore all facets of this subject. Finally, because these are difficult subjects, there will be some content that is hard to hear and might be triggering. Please understand I am not looking to insult anyone, but to explore these subjects openly and honestly. I don't want to convince anyone to think like me. I want to convince people to think, period. So without further ado, come have a lawless conversation with me. Moving on from the different arguments of life or conception or beyond all of that, let's just go into the idea of actually banning abortion and what exactly that would look like. The act of banning something is often a difficult thing to enforce, such as banning guns or cigarettes. Inevitably, those who want a gun will find a way to obtain one, and those who followed the ban and gave theirs up or did not buy any are subject to the will or force of those who obtain guns illegally. As an example, banning guns is a whole separate issue that will not be elaborated at this time, but it perfectly relates to the idea of banning abortion. If one bans abortion, then there will be those who perform them illegally. This means obtaining an abortion will no longer be regulated to maintain cleanliness or safety. The outcome would be complications that may result in permanent damage or even death. Not to mention the likely abuse that will occur because women are put in a position where reporting any malpractice or abuse would lead to them also being punished or simply being told they deserved it for seeking an abortion. So the question then becomes, at what point is the ban doing more harm to the pregnant woman than good for the unborn fetus or child? Because in all likelihood, it doesn't matter how strictly you enforce banning abortion, people will find a way to do it. On the subject, there must also be a conversation about capability of choice. This one is a big one for me. For instance, the fact of creating a law implies that as a whole, women are not capable of making such a choice. This can and will have grave implications in the future by opening up women to further control when it can be said there are other ways in which women are not capable of making decisions, either about their body or otherwise. The end result of this kind of thinking is bleak and should be avoided. The irony is also not lost in that when a woman becomes pregnant, that fetus now holds more rights than she does at that moment. And if she is pregnant with a girl, the irony turns cruel because the fetus has more rights inside her mother's womb than she will have the moment she is born. This is a little bit trivial, but it is something that weighs heavily on women, especially in relation to trying to ban abortion, because for a lot of people, the idea of banning it and taking that choice away from women, thus saying women are not capable of making said choice, makes them feel as if they are less than, and that their child, the fetus inside of them, is more important than their life or their ability to make decisions. This distinction cannot be correct and is a hypocrisy that cannot be righted by any law. Banning brings up a whole nother set of ironies in the sense of, in the United States, putting the vote back to the states means that some states will allow abortion and some states will ban abortion. Those who are pro-life, and let's say the southern states like Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, those kind of states, they're going to vote pro-life most likely. That doesn't actually take abortion away. It actually just takes abortion away for the people in that state. Thus, if someone becomes pregnant in Alabama or Texas or Mississippi and does not want that child and chooses to get an abortion, she then has to travel quite far to get that done. Which means instead of getting an abortion in between 4 and 6 weeks, let's say at the earliest, she then would have to probably save up money to travel wherever she needs to go, save up time off if she has PTO to be able to go and get the procedure done and come back and have time to recover. And thus, instead of getting the procedure done earlier when the least amount of harm is going to be done to both herself and, by pro-life standards, the already alive baby, she then has to wait even longer to a more later term abortion because she does not have that option available. Thus, the irony is, I find funny, even though it's not particularly funny, but I find it ironic when people say that abortion should be banned because it will likely lead to much later term abortions and likely the pain and suffering of both the woman and the child or the fetus. In relation to banning abortion, do you think abortion should be banned completely with no exceptions? If so, how would you suggest enforcing such a ban? Second, do you think letting the government decide the legality of abortion is the best option? Why or why not? And I do mean that in the sense of either federal government or state government. If you are interested in commenting about this episode or answering any of the questions I just asked, you are welcome to. You can either send me an email at lawlessconversations@yahoo.com. That is LAWLESSCONVERSATIONS@yahoo.com. You can also comment on Twitter at lawlessconvos, LAWLESSCONVOS. Finally, you can also contact me on Facebook if you just look for Lawless Conversations, 2 different words, LAWLESSCONVERSATIONS. I look forward to hearing from you. The references to any sources that I use in each episode will be available in the bio, along with all of these social media connections. Come back on Sunday and enjoy the interview I had with a woman who gave her child up for adoption. It doesn't necessarily pertain to banning, but I do think it is an important perspective that needs to be heard, and I just enjoyed being able to hear her story, and I think you will too. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I look forward to Sunday.